guys, day lift 10. We're going to be doing another canning, a little bit of fall canning here. We're going to do some applesauce today, but we're going to do it a little differently. I'm using this cookbook, and I am really enjoying this. If you don't have a copy of it, I highly recommend it. It's got some great recipes in it that I so look forward to trying. As you can see from all my marks here, I've got a number I want to try. We're going to be doing not just plain applesauce, but some cranberry applesauce. This is on page 191. If you don't have this book, I'm going to put a link below to the SB Canning site, where they also have a cranberry applesauce recipe to follow. That way it'll make it available to you, and you don't have to run out and grab, buy this cookbook. We've got 4 cups of sorted and stemmed fresh cranberries. These are not really fresh. I've had these in my freezer since last year because I didn't get around to using them. So a 12-ounce bag is 3 cups, and so I had to open another one and make it 4 cups because I was kind of trying to stick a little bit to the recipe, but we are going to deviate some from it. Alright, I do have 4 cups of, it's probably over 4 cups, more like 5 cups, but I kind of packed it up, of freshly chopped. It says to use tart apples like Granny Smith. I'm using a combination of Golden Delicious, Macintosh, and Galas. Okay, that's just my preference of apples. So you use what you want. If you, I probably should have added a Granny Smith or so in there just to give it a little tartness, but I figured the cranberries are probably going to be tart enough. It requires 2 cups of sugar. It doesn't specify, but I'm going to probably do at least a half to 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar in mine, just to give it a little caramel flavoring, just to give it that little extra different taste. I'm also going to add a touch of cinnamon. It does not call for it, but we'll probably put about a teaspoon or so in there. 2 cups of water. If you would prefer, you can use apple juice. Get the 100% juice, with no sugar added to it. We've already mentioned the 2 cups of sugar. So anyway, those are our recipe ingredients. Not a whole lot, pretty much just 4, 5 for me, since I'm going to put the cinnamon in. So let me get all this stuff dumped in a pot, and we'll be back in just a minute. Got my apples and cranberries here in the pot. I'm going to pour in 2 cups of water. Like I said, you can use apple juice if you prefer to. So right now I've got my heat setting on, it says a medium to high heat, and we're going to bring this up to a boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat, and I'm going to cover it and kind of let it boil gently for a little bit until the cranberries start to pop. This is about 15 minutes. You want the apples to get good and soft. So when we get to that point, I'll bring you back, and hopefully by then, I don't know, my jars aren't going to be ready then. I've got them in the dishwasher. But anyway, we'll bring you back to that point, because cook time on this, you got about, probably 20-25 minutes on this first part, and then when you add the sugar, you've got another probably 20 minutes on that. So not too bad. So alright, we'll be back in a minute. Starting to get a little bubbly boil in there, so I'm going to cut my heat down to a medium. And I'm going to put the lid on, and let me give this a stir right quick, and this already smells wonderful. I don't know about you, but apples and cranberries are one of my favorite combinations. That and strawberries and peaches together. Oh my gosh. But for fall, yeah, this is a favorite. So anyway, okay, little stir there, and going to put the lid on and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. One thing I failed to mention is, on this recipe, it didn't call for you to peel the apples. It just says to core them and finely chop, because it wants you to run the fruit mixture through a food meal or a fine mesh sieve and discard the skins and the seeds. And then you're going to rinse out the pan. Well, no. I went ahead and peeled them, got that over with, and because I'm too lazy to pull out my Victorio and try to get the thing put together, and for just this small a batch, if I were doing a massive batch, then yeah, I could see doing that. So what I'm going to do, since I've already peeled them, is just take my handy dandy little hand whisk blender thingy here, and the immersion blender, and do it that way. So I'm not going to sit here and make you try to listen to all this. and I'm trying to keep the cord out of the heat element, and so you can still see it with the camera. It's going to be a little difficult. So we'll be back once I'm done blending this up. Got this all blended. I personally don't mind a few chunks in there. In fact, I probably blended it up a little more than I wanted. If you don't have an immersion blender, handheld immersion blender to use, do a food processor. Anyway, just be really careful because this mixture is really hot and will splatter and burn. Alright, so I've got this over a medium-low heat right now, and I'm ready to dump in my sugar. I've got 1.5 cups of just plain pure cane white sugar. And I've also got 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar, just simply for my preference. And let's stir that in, get it mixed. And we're going to stir this until, constantly it says, until it's blended and the sugar has melted. And trust me, this really did need some sugar. I'm really glad I didn't use the Granny Smith tart apples. Because with the cranberries in there, it's really just, it's tart. So, it's all about your taste preference though. Entirely up to you. Okay, I've got the sugar blended, and I'm going to have to get, let's see if I can do this without knocking the camera over. Here we go. I'm going to start with 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon in here. A generous 1/2 teaspoon. Let's get that stirred in. And this smells wonderful already. Between that and the extra apples that I sliced up and put on the dehydrator with some cinnamon and sugar, my house is smelling pretty good. Alright, we're going to, let me see what it says next. Stay? No, not going to stay. I don't want to drip. There we go. Okay, over medium-low heat, stirring constantly. Okay, I'm supposed to be stirring constantly. Heat the mixture until the sugar is completely dissolved, which I think that pretty well is already. Increase the heat to medium and bring the mixture to a boil. Reduce the heat and simmer, stirring frequently until the sauce thickens about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so yeah. Let me turn the heat up on this and get it back up to a boil. Well, as you can see, I'm back up to a boil now. It's bubbling away. And it's coming back pretty quickly, so I'm going to turn my heat down to a simmer and start my timer for, I'm going to go for 10 minutes. Alright, got this all thickened up now, and I'm going to start ladling into the jars. We're going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace, and this is thickened up really well, and it tastes wonderful. Now, a little trick in this book that it says to do is to fill the jar about 1/3 of the way up. And if you'll notice, I'm using 1/2 pint jars simply because I'm going to be the only person here in this house eating this. My husband doesn't like cranberries. Big surprise. And so this is all mine. I don't have to share it unless I want to. So anyway, it costs to do pints. I'm not going to do pints since I'm the only one eating it. And it's a trick in here. It says to fill the jar 1/3 of the way full, and then take a plastic spoon and press your air bubbles out. And you got to remember, this is the name of this cookbook is Blue Ribbon Canning, and it's for, I guess, basically if you want to enter into county fairs and stuff. So that was about 1/3, I guess, and we're going to put a little more in there. And take our plastic spoon and press more air bubbles out. And a little bit more until we're inch. Let's see if we're about 1/2 inch there. Yep, just touching. So now I'm going to do a real good deep bubble on this. I'm going to go all around the edges and try to make sure I get everything out of there, stir it up in the middle. I'm not one to enter contests. I did enough shows in my youth with horse shows, and just not my thing anymore. But I'm not going to say never. You know, it could happen. Somebody could talk me into it. My husband's been trying to talk me into it. So, scrape that off back in there. Let's recheck our head space. Yep, still. Alright. Wipe our rim, and I'm hoping y'all got a good view of this. You got a fairly good view. And I'm going to do a side view. I'll remove the camera and move it around here on the next jar so y'all can get another view and hopefully maybe a better view of what I'm doing. Okay, there we are. Now, if I can find my wand, there we are. Nothing like having everything together. Alright. That on. And rings. I forgot rings. Thankfully I keep them handy. Alright. And I do have a towel handy this time so I don't have to grab hold of a hot jar and burn my fingers. The lid didn't want to go on. That's not want to go on just right. Okay. Finger tight. And there we are. Our first finished jar. I don't know if my lighting in here will let you see. And once the sugar was in this, oh my gosh, this tasted so good. Can't wait to try it. Anyway, I'm going to put this out in the water bath canner. I had it heating up outside so the water's not cold. Don't want to put hot jars in cold water. So you want it simmering up a little bit. Our water bath canner up to a full rolling boil. I ended up getting, let's see, about 6 pints and 1 little quarter pint out of all of that. So we'll put the lid on, our timer started, and this is going to go for 20 minutes. Alright, we ended up with 6 half pints and 1 quarter pint. I have decided I really like these little quarter pint jars. I would have never considered buying any of these myself. My sister-in-law had a box of them for whatever reason, and she gave them to me because she wasn't using them. She's not a canner. I like them, so I'll be investing in more because I think they're great little gift size jars, especially for the holidays. If you're not sure people might not enjoy what you've created. You never know if you're like me and like to do these unusual flavors, and they think they might want to try it. You know, these are just, and they're cute. They're just cute. So anyway, out of the 9 apples that I got to do this, I had a couple left over and dehydrated them. Sprinkled them with a little cinnamon sugar. So yeah, the house smelled really good yesterday with the cranberry apples and the cinnamon apples cooking and dehydrating. So anyway, here's the cookbook again. Blue Ribbon Preserves. I can't pronounce her last name. Linda J. Amendt. Amended? I'm not sure. But yeah. 4 ingredients. I'm really enjoying this cookbook. If you don't want to buy this cookbook or look for it at your library, I'm going to list a link below so you have access to a recipe that comes from a trusted site. At least I trust it. SB Canning or Canning Homemade. I can't remember which one it's going by now, but they've kind of revamped a little bit, but they have one of these recipes on here that is very, very similar and close. Just remember that, you know, even though I use the full 2 cups of sugar, you can always taste. Don't put in all your sugar all at once if you don't want it that sweet. You know, start out with half a cup and taste and see if it's to your liking, and build from there. You know, it's not a requirement to add that much sugar. So I'm happy with that. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll answer you as soon as I possibly can. Happy canning, y'all.